button, which I see you have, thank you. If you don't want to appear on the webinar recording, then please turn your camera off, because this is going to be uploaded to YouTube for people to view after the fact. We're delighted today to welcome a very well-known face to, I'm sure, many of you here in the meeting today. Tina Voisey is joining us. And for any of you who have been around the Boardmaker world over the years, no doubt you will be very familiar with Tina, who was one of the education managers at Boardmaker for a number of years. She's now an independent AAC and assistive technology consultant, and she's here today to talk to us about a really just fascinating and really exciting journey she's been on supporting an individual in the field of literacy, and she's going to share some fantastic tools and some resources with us today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Tina, and I'll hand over to you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Claire. It's really exciting to be here as I've been here a number of times for Boardmaker, and it feels like a rite of passage to be asked to do a Call Scotland webinar as myself. As Claire said, I've been in the industry for quite some time, working with various suppliers, the last Boardmaker. But before that, I was a teacher, and I've kind of gone back to those roots. And today I'm going to talk a bit about emergent literacy and digital tools for older learners, something that I've been focusing on for the past couple of years since I left Dynavox. And at the heart of my journey and the heart of this presentation today is James. James is a young man who I've been working with for about a year and a half. He's 23 years old. His Lennox-Gastaut syndrome has been labeled PMLD since a child. He went through the special school system and became an AAC user at the age of 16. He never had any literacy instruction at school, and his mother, who's on this call, and I really hope I'm going to make her proud and James proud today, very tenacious, and decided to fight for a personal education budget for him, and to take that money and use it so that we could put a program together for literacy for James, which I actually don't deliver. The two other people you see on the screen there are Tom and Kelly, who, along with Gina, James's mother, who's always on the other side of the camera, so why you don't see her here, have been delivering a literacy instruction program that I have been putting together through my knowledge of comprehensive literacy instruction and using the digital tools that I'm going to share with you today. So this is going to be a really whistle-stop tour. So just kind of buckle up, get ready. I've got a lot to share with you, but the PowerPoint will be shared after today, and there's going to be tons of links and places for you to go learn more and to replicate and get your hands on the things that I'm going to show you today. So don't try to keep up, just sit back and enjoy. So first off, James as an AAC user, really beginning with the literacy instruction was really important to his mother and to him. And you may ask yourself why it matters. And the reason why it matters is that it's estimated that school-age children, typically developing children, learn about 3,000 words per year. And by the age of 10, they know close to 40,000 words. I'd like some of you just in the chat to quickly guess how many words or symbols are in the average robust AAC app. So the app that James is using is very robust. It's Communicator 5, but just pop in the chat, which I seem to have lost here. How many words do you think a good AAC system might have? 500, 400, okay. 2,000, 800, 1,000. All right, you guys are all pretty low. It's actually 2,500 to 3,000 words. So we know an average 10-year-old knows about 40,000 words. We are giving those who use AAC between 2,500 and 3,000 words. So the words that they're hearing and the words that they have, the symbols that they have to use, creates this massive, what's called a lexical gap. And the best way that we know that we can fill it, that we can give people who use AAC the ability to say what they want to say, when they want to say it, to whomever they want to say it to, is by arming them with literacy skills. So that's what we're endeavoring to do for James. We're working on his literacy skills. Now, I've said that very quickly. You can hear an hour-long presentation from the guru of all of this herself, Karen Erickson, who gave a presentation as a keynote at the CM conference, the Communication Matters Conference, which is an AAC conference held in Leeds every year. There's been 23,000 views of this video. So this is a huge topic that people all over the world are really honing in on. So please do take some time to listen to Karen talk about this lexical gap and what we can do to support people who are using symbol-based AAC. Now, even though we know all of this, some research from quite a few years ago, so I'm hoping this has increased somewhat, but I don't think it's increased exponentially. We know that approximately 70 to 90% of students using symbol-based AAC lag significantly behind their same-aged peers, their non-disabled peers in the measures of reading. And the story doesn't get any better as they get older. So we have a real crisis here of people who are using AAC, who are using symbols, and are not reaching literacy levels that are anywhere near their non-disabled peers. Now, Gina, James's mom, and myself, and many others believe that there's no student who is too anything to learn to read and write. We began this journey with James at 21. He wasn't too old. Despite his label, he's not too disabled. We really took the least dangerous assumption with James. We assume that he can learn to read and write, so we're giving him every opportunity to do so. And if it turns out that he's unable to read and write, well, I think you'll see from today that we're having a hell of a good time trying to teach him. He's enjoying it. We're enjoying it. It's really improving the quality of his life. We decided not to go down the route of assuming just because of his label, just because of his age, that he wasn't going to be able to learn to read and write. Because if we were wrong with that, it would be a very dangerous assumption to make, a dangerous assumption for him. Now, I'm going to talk a lot today about the Comprehensive Literacy for All framework, which was developed by Karen Erickson, who's the director for the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. She co-wrote a book with Dr. David Copenhaver. That book has become mine and many practitioners' Bible. I will be referring to a lot of that today, as well as the work from the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. Many of you may be aware of Project CORE, as well as Jane Farrell, who is a practitioner in Australia. They've done a lot of great work. And I think collaboratively, but Karen and Dave have sort of summed up the fact that we might not know how to teach all students with significant disabilities to read and write to a level of, let's say, an 8-year-old. But we do know that efforts to assist these students in learning to read and write better have led to important outcomes that contribute positively to the quality of their lives. Now, I have permission from Gina to share lots of her Facebook posts about our journey. And I think this first one kind of shows that James has definitely benefited from the interventions that we've been putting forward. James has a lot of seizures. They have some pretty rubbish days. They have quite a few rubbish weeks, sometimes even months, where he's really quite poorly. And Gina's written here that after one of those rubbish times, they've started to work on his Christmas list. And I believe this is the first time that James was actively involved in writing his Christmas list. So I'm sure that was wonderful for him to be involved in. He then looked at his book on his eye gaze device, using the words that he had written in previous weeks. So he engaged in some independent reading and wrote words himself. Well, James was so impressed with himself that he kept looking at those words so that they would speak repeatedly over and over again. And Gina and the team around him, myself included, were feeling quite proud that he's starting to recognize his letters and beginning to work more on his literacy development than the symbols and those sight words that he's been focusing on. So it's definitely, you can see his face here, a huge smile on it. It's definitely improved his quality of life. And I just want to take a moment to define what I mean about literacy. And by that, I mean this very specific and narrow definition that we're talking about supporting James to learn to read and write using traditional orthography. So words and letters, not words and letters with symbols above them, but words and letters for meaningful purposes. Now, we're doing that using a comprehensive literacy instruction framework. So we're looking at his alphabet and phonological awareness. We're looking at his reading, his writing, and his comprehension. And at the bottom of this is his communication, him using his AAC system to tell us what he's learning. With the comprehensive literacy instruction framework, we start by asking 4 questions. Does the student know most of the letters most of the time? Does he engage actively in shared reading? Does he have a means of communication and interaction? Does he understand that writing involves words and letters? Now with James, when we started with this, we probably said no to at least 3 of those questions. So therefore, we start on daily emergent interventions. I don't have time to explain all these interventions. I'm going to signpost you to lots of different places you can learn more about them. What I'm going to show you is the digital tools we used to help him engage in all of these things. Something really important to note is that this emergent literacy interventions are not age dependent. So though a lot of these are the kind of things that we would traditionally use with children in nursery, it's really more dependent on experiences with print. And we know from James's schooling previously, he had very little experience with print. So we're really looking at giving him a literacy in a print-rich environment throughout all of these strategies we're using. So the first one we're going to talk about is shared reading. And I highly urge you to look at sharedreader.org. It's a website developed by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. It talks about a number of big ideas to think about while engaging in shared reading. So that's reading a book with a student, so a knowledgeable other and a learner sharing a book together. I don't have time to go through all of these, but I think the first big idea, providing books that are interesting, accessible, age and ability appropriate and respectful, is important when we're talking about older learners. So I found a bunch of stuff that I thought was great. I grew up on Sesame Street. I found some things that were, from Sesame Street, but they were with pop stars. I thought they were age respectful. James does not tolerate a single Muppet. We can't have any on the screen. He just, tunes out. But he loves Stranger Things. He loves female pop stars like Rihanna. He loves Raul Doll. There's a lot of things that he loves. And this post from his mom was saying that once I tapped into Stranger Things, a common love, he really took to the subject matter. And I think it's when we first hit one of our biggest strides, particularly when I focused on Nancy, the female character he finds quite cute. We did start with a Boardmaker instructional solution. Gina had invested in Boardmaker subscription for James. It was something obviously I was really au fait with. So we decided to use the free resources that are included in any Boardmaker 7 subscription you have. So at first we took a look at Reading Avenue. If you don't know where this is in your Boardmaker, if you already have it, take a look at the curriculum button at the top and you'll find these instructional solutions there. So we looked at topics that were included in Reading Avenue that looked at animals, looked at solar system, looked at transportation. They provide some amazing books for shared reading. So this is one that has to do with animals. They give a nice clue or cue for the adults, the knowledgeable other, reading with James, things that they can stop to ask, to bring him in to the experience of sharing this book together. They also have a button that opens up a chat board, so James can make comments about what they're reading rather than having to balance a number of different things. They also provide the books in PDF, which James prefers. We print those out and he has them alongside of the book on his screen, which he can turn the pages and make his comments as he's reading it with his carers. And he really was doing really well with this, but then it was time to kind of move on. We were looking for new content, and that's where Stranger Things kind of came into play. So there wasn't anything in Boardmaker on Stranger Things, so I took to Boardmaker myself and started to create through the templates some Stranger Things books. Now you could do this using PowerPoint, Tar Heel Reader, Pictello, any bookmaking app or product you have. I simply just did a lot of Google searching. And if you Google search Stranger Things A to Z, you'll find quite a lot of information out there that I kind of pinched and used to make books. So we made a Stranger Things A to Z book for James, using lots of different characters and things from the show that he could read during shared reading. Then we moved on to Raul Doll. I didn't even think about it. My husband just gave me a tea with the Raul Doll mug that I got from James as a Christmas gift. And again, search Raul Doll dictionary, and you'll find lots of things online that you can use to make your own books. Raul Doll has some rich language that James found really funny to share and read about, and it was wonderful for his phonological awareness. We moved on to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and of course, that has to do with sweets. So we made a book about sweets. Again, just pinching lots of different stuff off the internet. We also use a free website from the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies called Tar Heel Reader. This is free for anyone to use. Something that a lot of people don't know is that you can actually filter rated C for caution. So Tar Heel Reader was developed for older learners, and there is a C for caution, which are books that I would absolutely put in front of teenagers and above. They're just a little bit cheeky, nothing too naughty, but something that our older learners really enjoy taking a look at, and lots of humor. Two of our favorite authors are Read a Book, which is actually the pseudonym for Dr. David Copenhaver, and Jane Farrell. They write some fantastic books, play on words, lots of funny topics that really are appropriate for older learners. Make sure you also filter for including unreviewed books, because it's just going to give you a lot more choice, but do go through them yourself first before opening them in front of a class. Again, nothing too naughty, but some things can be a bit cheeky. Within Tar Heel Reader, you can go in, there's a little cog at the front of the book, and you can go in and change lots of different things. You can change the speech output. You can choose different colors for the page color, the font color. You can download all of these books as EPUBs to play on your iPads or as a PowerPoint. So I can take a book like Don't Say Fart, and I can make it high contrast. I can also change the way that the buttons present. We can access this with switches. We can access this with eye gaze. They all have simple 1-2 sentences per page, perfect for shared reading with emergent literacy instruction. I found this website, tarheelreader.weebly.com. It's a great website that's got lots of information for using Tar Heel Reader. It's a free website. It can be a little clunky at times, but this Weebly site really helps you understand how to create favorite lists, how to write your own books, how to use it on iPads and with switch access, how to access some spin-offs from Tar Heel Reader like Shared Reader and Tar Heel Gameplay, a new favorite of mine that I actually haven't used with James yet, but it's going to come his way. This is something I found created by a person for the grid, but using Tar Heel Gameplay. It's a website that allows you to take any URLs from YouTube and turn them into a game. So these are a bunch of books that someone collated and put into a grid 3 grid set. And what it does is allows you to open a book, and it then plays a YouTube video. And they've found some fantastic shared reading of books where actually as the person's reading, the text is highlighted, and you can make comments about the story as it's being read. And in Tar Heel Gameplay, you can choose when a pop-up appears, which will then encourage the person to turn the page or ask for more. You can put any text you like in that pop-up button. It's fantastic. And I'll send you a link, not just to Tar Heel Gameplay that you can do with anything, but also this adapted book set that was created by AAC Bethany, a practitioner in the US. It's really great. I've been using it with some younger learners, but not James yet. There's tons of other places you can find free books that are very appropriate for older learners. So places like Get Epic and Unite for Literacy, fantastic online books. RNIB Bookshare, as well as Caliber Audio, have some great audio book share as well, all for free. And then, of course, Core First Learning and Reading Avenue, which I already discussed as part of your Boardmaker 7 subscription. So moving on to the next thing that we've been working on with James, and that's alphabet knowledge and phonological awareness. I really encourage you to take a look at the Literacy Instruction for Students with Significant Disability website. This was created by a school district in Canada, and they explain this instructional intervention really, really well. But just to give you like kind of a brief synopsis, we've been doing an enhanced alphabet instruction routine with James. So we pick a letter of the day, and we do a letter of the day, not a letter of the week or a letter of the month, but a letter of the day, because it allows us to cycle through the alphabet 7 times in a year. So this is looking at a distributed practice versus a massed practice. So he's getting lots of experience and exposure to the different letters throughout the school year. And it's just a 10-minute routine where we introduce the upper and lowercase letter. We look at the letter name and we learn about the sound it represents. And then we take some time finding that letter and making the letter ourselves. Now, I've created a series of resources for Boardmaker, letter lessons from A to Z that you can freely download. Again, the link is coming to you, but it takes James and his knowledgeable others through their instructional routine. So first, they introduce the letter to him, both the uppercase and the lower, and then they go through the sound that the letter represents. And he can experience all these different symbols. He presses them. He hears the words that the letters represent. We then listen for the sound. And I've gone through and found lots of YouTube videos of songs that I think James would like that have that sound that we're focusing on, that letter of the day that he can listen to. And we show the lyrics so he gets that experience of seeing the letters as well. Then he looks for the letters. We use the visual scenes, the template in Boardmaker, and I've put in different pictures where he can look for letters in the scene. And when he finds that letter, it pops up and it says the letter name. And then we bounce him over to Tar Heel Reader, where he reads books where as part of shared reading, they're looking for the letter of the day as they're reading the book. Lastly, James has to produce that letter. He has to write that letter himself. And James uses alternative pencils. So he writes the letter either by using his keyboard on his Communicator 5 or by using a low-tech flip chart. Again, we're going to give you lots of links to find flip charts for yourself. If you want to find my letter lessons, just go to the Boardmaker community and search through the groups for letter lessons, and you can find A to Z and use them yourself. I was inspired by Dr. Laura Clark, who also has a website, which I'm going to give you links to, that has shared PowerPoints you can freely download that also does the enhanced alphabet instruction. So I will send that link. She's done a fantastic job there. I just translated it to Boardmaker. And for those of you who are using the grid or supporting learners who are using the grid, an organization from Australia called Indigo have created, again, the enhanced alphabet instruction routine A to Z with high contrast through, which you can find through online grids in your grid 3. So lots of opportunities to find that. Another thing we did to encourage James to learn his letters was play games. So again, I'm going to share this with you, games that we've created in Boardmaker that allow James and his family and his friends to focus on and learn his letters while having some fun. So Hangman I actually found through the community, and this allows him to, using his eye gaze, call letters, and as he calls the letters for his Hangman, they disappear. We also made a board so he could play Go Fish, and Gina got some index cards and created alphabet, both uppercase and lowercase, that they've printed, that she just hand wrote, sorry, and laminated, that they can use playing all different games with James. And he uses the board just to shout out the letters and say when he's got a match or to go fish. I also took the spinner from Boardmaker so he can spin the wheel and see if he can find if it lands on a letter that matches the target letter of the day, and he tells us yes or no if it matches. And this is me being the geekiest Boardmaker person ever. I took a lot of time to figure out how to make these die, which I will show you. He spins the die, he uses his eye gaze to roll the die, and then they have a shake. And then he tells us whether they match. So this is all about him just recognizing his letters. I've also just today in searching, because I know not everybody's got Boardmaker, I found another website called Wordwall.net that has lots of very age-appropriate games for older learners where you can have spinners, you can have whack-a-mole, all different kinds of stuff where you can find and work on letters and that letter recognition as part of your enhanced alphabet instruction. Now, going back to our Stranger Things theme. I think it was Claire who might have brought this to my attention, but there's a website where you can actually, if you know Stranger Things, you can create your own wall and your own message. So here it's Blinking James, a great way to engage James in looking at his letters and focusing on those letters using that theme. This website also has a way of being able to put any letters on the Hollywood sign that you like. So if you have some starlets in your class, you can put their names in Hollywood lights. I also found a website that you can create your own opening scene from Stranger Things. So every time James works through the alphabet, Gina and his team put on a big party. So this was the Stranger Things theme, and this was part of his congratulations for working his way through the alphabet. I was able to put in letters of the alphabet as well as names using the Stranger Things opening scene, which he is very familiar with, to congratulate him. So I will share a link. This website also does stuff for Star Wars, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, anything that your older learners might be interested in. They're not all free, but they're not terribly expensive to create your own opening scene. So I will share that. And then, of course, just using Boardmaker in like kind of the traditional sense, they've got lots of wonderful templates where James can work on matching his uppercase to lowercase, sorting different letters of the day, quizzes where he hears the letter of the day and then has to find it himself. And Boardmaker tracks his progress as well. So I can take a look and see how James is doing at any time as he's interacting with these on his eye gaze device. I will share the link to the interactive template guide, which just kind of takes you through all the different things that Boardmaker has to offer. Now, with phonological awareness, we're really looking at raising James's awareness, getting him ready for more traditional phonics instruction. He needs to distinguish between all of the different words he hears. And we want to work on things like, do these words rhyme? Do they start with the same sound? Raising his awareness of that correlation between those letters and the sounds that they make. When we started with Reading Avenue, they have a fantastic tongue twister, which James can choose the different onset sounds and it will say them out loud and give him that experience of finding out what it's like to manipulate sounds and letters. I'll just play this. I think I remembered to share my sound.
Macing mabbits mun myotously might around the manch.
And then when he chooses the right one, the sensible one,
racing rabbits run riotously right around the ranch.
He gets a little illustration that goes with it. Some of them can really make you giggle, and they were a great way to start with phonological awareness. Then we moved on to using a writing frame within Boardmaker so that James could experience making his own tongue twisters. You could replicate this in SimWriter, you could replicate it in Clicker, any of these kind of writing frame programs that you might have.
Yuri yelled at yellow yaks.
And it's all about hearing that initial sound and having some fun with sounds and the letter of the day. And again, we use those traditional Boardmaker templates that you could replicate using Choose It Maker or just flashcards, where we've put things like asking James if he can identify if these two words rhyme or not, or giving him a word and ask him if it starts with the sound that we're focusing on, the letter of the day, or looking at a number of different symbols and do these words that the symbols represent start again with the letter the sound that we're working on, or focusing on things like, is this a long word? Is this a short word? And sorting those out. I also used Immersive Reader along with PowerPoint to make some more tongue twisters for James because he really enjoys the tongue twisters. And again, just Google searched tongue twisters. There's lots and lots of them out there. So James can just go through and play a tongue twister and it's read out.
Daddy does not dig different dances.
And you can play it over and over again.
Daddy does not dig different dances.
And it's just something else that we use along the letter of the day routine to kind of raise his awareness. And going back to what I mentioned before, also using lots of YouTube videos. I couldn't get the video downloaded, but James is completely rocking out. I think this one, the Pump Up the Jam, we also have Gina singing in the background. The letter of the day was P. They all really enjoyed listening to that song, pointing out when they hear the sounds that they're focusing on. And it's something just that's really enjoyable for all of them. Just search on YouTube any pop song, any song that you know someone might like with lyrics. And then you're getting that double whammy of hearing the sound and seeing the words on screen. Some of my favorite YouTube channels that I encourage you to take a look at. Now, like I said, I love the Muppets. James, not so much. I learned I can't share these with him, but some of your students may. So take a look at Sesame Street. They do have some really fun collaboration with rock stars and with famous people that I wouldn't hesitate to put in front of a teenager. West Tank raps Dr. Seuss. So this is a guy doing Dr. Seuss to Dr. Dre. It's so much fun, a great way to experience sounds and work on phonemic awareness. Then we have Phonics Man. He's doing some great stuff as well. Lots of fun raps that I think a lot of our older learners would enjoy, and just searching any song name plus with lyrics on YouTube. All right, in the home stretch, sorry, I'm running a little bit over. Told you I was very ambitious. Shared and independent writing. Now, we wanted to not have this all just be about reading. We also wanted to engage James in the writing process, because through the writing process, James learns that writing is communication. It's making that link between the words that he's saying and having them written down, and that these ideas can be represented in ways other than symbols. And for him to learn to use his pencil, that's the keyboard on his Communicator 5, as well as the flip chart. So one strategy that we used for shared writing is called predictable chart writing. This is a language and vocabulary rich 5-day routine that helps James understand that spoken words translate to written words. It increases his knowledge of the writing process, writing from left to right, use of uppercase, use of punctuation, and it provides a lot of repetition with variety. So it's a 5-day routine. I'm going to send you links to where you can find all about this routine. It's super easy to follow. Most of the days only take about 5 minutes to do as part of your classroom routine. Here is an example of a predictable chart that James and his team wrote about Nancy, his favorite character in Stranger Things. Everyone takes a turn creating a sentence, and they're writing the chart, and then we work with the chart in a number of different ways, and it culminates with making the book. Now, we've only really been focusing on days 1, 2, and 3 with James, because he is learning by himself. Some of these are a little bit more conducive to a group environment. So we start with Nancy is. No symbols here because we want James to focus on those words. Nancy is, and with the repetition, a lot of focus on core words as well. James can start his sentence starter, or we could just do this on a whiteboard. We can do it on a piece of paper, writing this out. And then James chooses a word. Now, we do use symbols here because this is for communication. James is communicating what he thinks Nancy is, but then he's seeing it translate to just the written words. That's part of him learning that these words that he's saying with the support of symbols translate to just a written word. And then he finishes with a full stop. Sometimes we were using question marks. Sometimes we're using exclamation points. And then James writes his name, as does everyone that's doing this along with him. His knowledgeable others go ahead and write their own sentence. James, after 1.5 years, is pretty regularly writing the first 3 letters of his name, which is really, really exciting. He's doing a fantastic job. And then after we've written the chart on days 2, 3, and 4, there's a number of different routines. One that I really love is working with the sentence. Again, using a Boardmaker a ready-made template, he can work on working with the sentence. So it's scrambled up and he has to unscramble it. So I'm just going to play this. Is my sound working, Claire?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Tina. Yeah.
So I'm just going to play this so you can see. First,
Nancy
the sentence that he's created is shown, and then it's covered. And then he has all the different words of the sentence, and he has to choose which order he's going to put
Nancy,
it in.
not quite.
Then he
Look
can
at
listen
the
to
sentence.
it.
Nancy is strong.
Okay, so it's not quite right.
Now try again.
Now he's going to try again. And he can go
Nancy.
through and he can listen after every single word.
Nancy.
And he can also choose the look button
Nancy
to see
is
if it is
strong.
the same. I have, since this example, actually learned to put a space between the last word and full stop so that he has to
Strong.
place his,
Nancy is
his
strong.
punctuation in this sentence
That's
as well,
right.
which is an important part. So that's shared writing, and there's so much more, but I'm already over on time. Moving on to independent writing, that's also part and part of James's instructional routine. So it's just really in 3 parts. Before he starts writing, we have to give him a pencil. So as I've said before, he uses alternative pencils of a flip chart and his on-screen keyboard, and then he chooses a topic. A lot of times I give him a choosing board with symbols, but you could use remnants from things that have happened, maybe like an old ticket from going to see a show, or different cards, books, things that he's going to use, but he chooses the topic. And then during the writing process, all we do as knowledgeable others is support his writing. So we're not sitting there telling him, nope, he didn't choose the right letter, or he didn't spell that correctly. We're just letting him work with the full keyboard, all 26 letters, and we have absolutely no expectation of what's going to come out of James. And then after he indicates that he's finished writing, we give him some meaningful feedback, and we connect to his AAC, to his communication. Now, the website that is, I think, the best for giving you lots of advice on finding those tools, those writing tools for him, is from Jane Farrell. And you're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint, so you can go and investigate. And there's lots and lots of links to all different types of alternative pencils. But what we've done here is, you can see a picture of James. He used his flip chart with his knowledgeable others. They went through and scanned different letters, and he indicated when he wanted that letter to be written. So you can see on the whiteboard, that is his what he wrote. He had chosen the topic of outer space. So then his knowledgeable others gave him some feedback after he was finished writing and said, wow, James, I see a V here. You know, you can write Venus with the word V. Do you want to write Venus? And he indicated whether that's what he meant or not. At this point, James probably didn't know what he meant, but it's all part of figuring it out, understanding that words and letters hold meaning. So here we've taken what James has written and turned it into a book that he's very proud to share. And you can see from some of the writing samples, at some points, James just chooses every letter in a row. You can see A, B, C, D, E. He's just gone through. In other places like Venus, he's really scanned and thought through the letters that he wants to use. Another example is, here you go, lots of different letters that he started at the beginning and then kind of went through the alphabet and found some more at the end. But at all times, his knowledgeable others helped attribute some meaning to that. And then we took that and turned it into a book. I actually had help from my 10-year-old's daughter, and we wrote this story using James's words about a Martian taking a holiday. Again, Jane Farrell, I'm going to go back to. She's just my go-to when it comes to writing, emergent writing. She has recently put out a real formative framework called Writing with All Tools that'll give you an idea of where your learner's at, taking their writing samples, and then kind of giving you an idea of where you need to go to next. Fantastic free tool you can download from our website, and we're sharing that link. You can also go to the Dynamic Learning Maps professional development website. This has been created by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, and do free professional development on how to support writing, independent writing at this emergent level. So I'm done. 8 minutes late. I'm really sorry. I did say that was I was very ambitious, but I wanted to share all these things because there's so much good stuff out there. So much of it is free. So much of it is stuff that you already have in your classrooms. I'll also send you a link to where this has all started for me, and that is with the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies. Project Core was the first place I went to, and where I really started to learn, and then worked my way through things like the Dynamic Learning Maps professional development, Tar Heel Share Reader, spend lots of time on Tar Heel Reader itself. These are all free, short, snappy professional developments opportunities. So do take a look at them. I'll send you a few other links. But that's me. I'm Tina Voisey, and I just want to finish on please, please, please take that least dangerous assumption with your learners. Assume that everyone can learn to read and give everyone the opportunity. And I'll tell you, even if they don't, you're just going to have so much fun, you and them, in that journey in trying and learning and giving them that instruction. The interaction is amazing and invaluable. So please feel free to get in touch and go to my website, but I'm really rubbish at updating it. I do have big plans someday, but this presentation will be shared with you. And I'm always happy if you want to send me an email, happy to chat more about our experience.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tina. That was just absolutely brilliant. The chat is filled with lots of really positive comments about, wow, what a fantastic resource. This looks excellent. I'm going to go and try this out. So you've definitely generated a lot of things for people to go off and have a look at, which is exactly what we wanted to do. Does anyone have any questions just before we wrap up? Just maybe to give you a wee second just to put anything into the chat if you do have a question. Tina, if someone's kind of come along to this webinar today and this is the first they've heard of this idea of teaching literacy in this way, what would you say is a good step one for them to kind of start them off on the journey?
Project Core. Take a look at Project Core. There are 12 professional development modules. They only take about 10 to 15 minutes each to do. The first 6 talk about focusing on core words, and the last 6 talk about using core words within these instructional routines. If you're going to do any instructional routine, start with shared reading. Shared reading with your shared Tar Heel reader, where you've got lots of books, and also all the books that, Call Scotland, Book Bugs, all these things that are available to us. It's just the best place to start.
Great. Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah, I don't think we've got any questions, just lots of people going to go off and try things. I tried to put some links in the chat as we were going along there, but don't worry. Tina's presentation has been uploaded and will be available to you in the email that you'll get after this website has finished. That will give you the link to the recording, and you'll also be able to click on that and get a link to the PDF and go through and click through all of the links that are there. So thank you, Tina, for what could have easily been a 2-hour website webinar with all of these things to share, but we really, really appreciate you coming along and giving us so many ideas for today. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time for another call webinar. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.